Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Open Studio. I'm your host for the show. My name is Danny Campbell, and yes, we've got an amazing show for you today because joining me in studio is two lovely gentlemen who's from the organization or a museum called Lwandle Migrant Labour Museum. Okay, and they're here to speak to us a little bit more about the museum and the history that it covers about the black men who dwell at the hostels. But you will hear all about that as we go into the show. So guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. It's great to have you guys here. I see the smiles. I see you enjoying being here. You're enjoying the morning. So for those of us, or for those that's watching at home that do not know you, hearing about this for this first time, can you just introduce yourselves? We can start with you.
Okay. My name is Lwandle Migrant. I'm from Lwandle as well. Yeah. To another location was called Asanda Village, aka Zola, if you can call it that way.
Yeah. And yourself, sir?
My name is Sive, surname is Mjigelo. I also work for the Lwandle Migrant Labour Museum. I'm working as a governance at the museum with my colleague over here. He's doing marketing for the museum.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So Lwandle is a very tongue-twisting name. You know, you can get lost in it, you can get confused, you can forget what it is. So why that name specifically? Why Lwandle?
Okay, Lwandle is actually designed in an area called Lwandle.
Okay.
But then it has a different meaning altogether because during that apartheid time, Lwandle was actually means beach and sea, or sea. See the way you interpret it. But then the black people there around were not allowed to be next to near beach or sea, even though the place is called Lwandle.
Yes. Wow. So can you tell me the history of this place, how it started and why it came about?
The history of Lwandle.
Yeah.
It started in the year 1958 when the hostels were built. The hostels were built only to accommodate 500 single males. The males who only came here to work as some used to work in the fruit canning industry.
Yeah.
Some used to work maybe in the petrol stations. So the place was designed to accommodate those single males who were actually from the place called the Eastern Cape. But back then it was divided into two, of which it was called the Transkei and the Ciskei. So those guys came from the Eastern Cape where they would register under the recruitment agency, of which it was called DEB back then. I don't know now if it still exists, but yeah, they would register under the agency and then they would be recruited to come and work as maybe, what you call it, Zugile?
They will be kind of fruit canning industry, as Steve said, power constructions, in different sectors actually for business.
Yeah.
But mostly it was a farm, which was owned by Mr. CBJ Van Furen. Therefore, before the Stellenbosch Divisional Council, which means the government who was running the whole place, decided to pursue that sport of Lwandle.
Wow.
Yeah.
So looking at 1956, that's during the apartheid years.
Yes.
So when the hostels was built and these black men was living in there, how was that like as the apartheid progressed?
Okay, actually it was very tough, as Siva explained already. So when they did come here around 1960, when the hostels were actually established or were operating already, so they came in and so even if they would be married, they would leave their wives and children at home because they were not allowed next to the working situation. Hence you see the migrant labor system. Which we can alternatively say it's a cheap labor system. Therefore, it was just an abuse of power.
Oh, so just to understand this very, very, very clearly, it was basically people that were working for the government and they were given these places to stay.
Yes.
Which was the hostels, and they could not get families to come with them or anything like that.
It's not actually only the government, because some of them they would get seasonal contracts maybe. For instance, let's say you get a yearly contract. You know, you only work for that specific time, and then when your contracts reach the end, then you would have to go back home. So Lwandle was built in such a way that it differs from most of the areas in Cape Town. It wasn't built to be a location. It was built only to accommodate those 500 single males. Unlike Nyanga, Langa, those were built to accommodate families, and it was built to how can I put it? But it wasn't built to accommodate families, Lwandle, and hence you see the way it is structured. It was only built to accommodate those number of males that came from the Eastern Cape.
Wow. So what happened when the Democratic Party took over? How did it? What was the changes that took place?
In terms of the new government or the apartheid era one?
Yes.
Okay, there's a differentiation actually. So yeah, at that time when you look at the government who was the apartheid one, but let's start there and just summarize a little bit about it.
Okay.
So they had their own way of controlling the movement of black people around. So hence it says the area is very rare, it's very different because it's just situated right inside of the whites, people dominated actually, which was Gordon Space, Trant, and then Somerset West. So Lwandle is just inside in it, and then it was properly planned because when you in those areas you'll never see it. Yeah. So the surface is just like that. The slope was very flat.
So Lwandle was built on the 1st of May. 1st of May 2000. That was Workers' Day.
That was the official opening of the museum.
Okay.
That time, the 1st of May in 2000.
So now it is just a museum now, where you can go in and see how these people lived in the hostels, or what can we expect when we go into the museum?
There's wide range of activities that are happening in Lwandle. For instance, we do have after-school programs.
Okay.
We do have educational programs whereby we assist kids after school with their homeworks and assignments. We have a holiday program that we do just to keep the kids out of the street during the holiday times, you know, where we do activities with them. Sometimes we give them what we call numeracy.
Numeracy.
Yes, sometimes there would be days whereby we play sports with them just to keep them busy during those times, you know.
So no, that's a very interesting initiative. So we're just going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue on this conversation. So for those of you that's watching at home, please do not go anywhere. Buckle your seatbelt, stay tight. We'll be back after this. Alright guys, welcome to it. If you just tuned in, you're not too late. You are watching Open Studio on Cape Town TV. As always, I'm your host for today's show, and I've got two amazing gents with me who's from the museum called Lwandle Migrant Labour. And you know, before the show, before the break, we got to learn more about them. You know, the background of the museum, and now a very interesting fact or point that was made before the break that we spoke about the various activities that takes place within the museum, you know, the after-school program. And so I'm guessing you're dealing with kids, you know, you're dealing with scholars. So are there any volunteers that is coming through, you know, to assist and help with the initiative?
Actually, it's not a part of volunteering. We work like with students from USA, from the colleges and the universities there. So they come in and do jobs in collection department. Some they will come through and they assist from the education programs. Yeah, so we do have, but mostly they're from abroad. That's very funny.
Yeah. So what can we learn about the migrant labor system within Lwandle?
Okay, what you can learn about the migrant labor system, we narrate from the beginning of Lwandle, and then we continue with our different sections of how it affected them.
Okay.
And in fact, it just kind of scratched our minds as black people. And then when you get in there, you'll just feel the story from the beginning to an end. And then we have different exhibitions as well, like your Sianyanzela exhibition, which is a story as well. that occurred around at Lwandle apart from the past 5 years.
Yeah.
But then it connects with what happened around 1986 at Lwandle. So there's a lot of things that you'll find there.
And it's amazing. It's amazing how the stuff just connects. So, you know, you've got a lot of different things happening there, a lot of different activities. This is obviously a very different museum than most of us are used to. You know, where a museum, you just go in and there's things you look at and you read and somebody guiding you through. Here you're actually hands-on and you're helping them, you know, achieve and do the right things. So what would you say is the mission and vision for the museum?
Okay, the vision actually of the museum was to keep the story alive and remind the black person or a black child that we've went through certain stages in our lives which affected the whole families. You understand? So, and then there's also a continuation of migrant labor system, which means we are part of it. We're originally from Eastern Cape as well. But then we come here to work. Then during holidays, then we go home. Like we have that experience. So it's just a recurring issue. Not like we don't feel the Western Cape is a part of our home. But then you understand, we're just telling the story there, which is it's still applying to us even now.
Yeah. Like you mentioned out telling the story, you know, and this story goes goes way back, you know. So what are you guys doing, you know, to speak about the, you know, because from what I'm hearing now, the museum holds a very rich history of the past, you know, the before the apartheid, during the apartheid regime, after that, and what the change in government. So is there anything you are doing within the museum that is helping, you know, reconnect with the past and with the history?
Okay, let me take you over again this one. Okay, you know what? You know what happens. Hence, Sylvia has mentioned already that we do work very well with schools. Like our programs are kept linked to programs. That means anything that they do at school, we do connect with it as well. But then we do have youth connect programs, whereby we gather youth as well. And then we talk about challenges that we as youth face, and then we uplift each other as well. And then we also have your theater as well, each and every Friday. Like in fact, the first Friday of the month, which is run by the museum alongside with the Kuya Kanya production. That's whereby we're doing art, poetry, acting, music. So people from the area come try and watch. So yes, we work very well to connect actually to all of us.
Sounds busy.
We are.
It's amazing. So what is the institutional value, and how do you make sure that people honor it and adhere to it?
Okay, we have a Hostel 33 building, which is now a provincial heritage site.
Hostel 33?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a provincial heritage site now. So we tell the story of the main museum, but then we take you through to the whole process, and then get inside the hostel. And then you see the beds there of how they used to sleep, the space, the lack of privacy, even the bucket system that they were using, because they didn't have any flushing toilets. So we're just taking you through the whole thing. And then we're telling a story from 1960s, and then we continue to the story around 1970s. In fact, the transition till even now, the late 2000s.
Wow.
To add on that, the hostels, there hasn't been any changes that have been made ever since they were built in that year.
Is it no changes at all, or no major changes?
There are no changes.
No changes at all.
The only thing that we have, we installed the fire alert system. Just for the safety of the hostel. So it's still in its original form as it was back in the days. The things that the workers used to use whilst they were still living there, they are still the same way. And the bucket system, which Zukile has mentioned, it's still the same old way as it was. So there's been no changes.
So it's exactly
because what we're trying to portray is that when you go out of the museum, what we've spoken about in the museum, you get a chance to experience that, you know. So that's why we kept the hostel,
as is.
As is, yes.
So Hostel 33, tell me about that.
Actually, it was room 34, 33 and 34. But then because we wanted to keep the legacy going, when they were doing hostels to home projects, and since I mentioned already that we wanted to keep the authenticity of the building to be original to that extent, and then hence it's being chosen one of the provincial heritage site of Western Cape. So yeah, it tells a very rich story and very different one. So yeah.
Provincial heritage site.
Yes.
That is a big one.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a big one. So what is your experience has been like, working with these or being part of this movement?
I would say being part of the museum plays a very big role. Like for instance, myself, I grew up around Lwandle, while the hostels were still the same old way. I was there living in those hostels. So like growing up in Lwandle, brings so much, so much knowledge, of how people used to live back in the days, because you were part of that, but understand what some of them went through, what they went through.
I can feel the.
You feel the connection.
We're gonna take another break. We're gonna take a short break. Give you guys a chance to cool down. For those that's watching us at home, I'll give you also a chance to cool down. Okay, so stay tight to your seats, guys. We're just gonna take a short break. When we come back, we continue with our conversation. So do not go anyway. See you now. Hey guys, welcome back. We are still going, we are still rolling. I hope you are going and rolling with us wherever you're sitting, wherever you find yourself right now. If you just tune in, you're not too late. Well, almost late because we're almost at the end of the show. But joining me in studio today is two lovely gentlemen from an amazing museum called Lwandle Migrant Labour Museum. And we're just here, to have a conversation about the history, the past, the background of it, and also what they are doing to help kids within the community and scholars, to be specific. Okay, so we spoke about the history. We spoke about your history, the history of the museum. You told us a bit more about yourself, the programs that you run within the museum. So, like we mentioned earlier on, this is more about what happened within the apartheid regime, during the 1956 it was up until the 1980s. So what about us that's born the 1990s? The babas, the small ones, the nunus. So why is it, how important is it for us, to get to know or to be part of Lwandle Migrant Labour Museum?
Okay, I'll take this one. Hence, I've said we work very well with schools because we understand that that's actually our bridge to feel that information and feed them and tell them the story that it's very important to keep the museum running because they have to replace us when we go out, and then they should keep the pride of the museum as well and the story around it. Yeah.
So what are the ages that you cater for?
The ages we cater for, we don't have a specific age, because we've had, I think it was the grade 4s that we were doing the educational programs with. It was the beginning of the year.
Okay.
The program was about the
local history.
The local history, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, where the schools would come in and then we teach them what's in the museum and how were these tools, how they were used and what they were used for. So, and it's part of their curriculum at schools.
Okay, so it blends in perfectly.
It blends in perfectly. And now lately you'd find that what we're teaching them about at the museum is part of their work, because they would come in now after schools, asking for things that are based on the program that we offered them.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. So you said you're not really specific on the different age groups that you work with, but you are working with school kids. So which means you are faced with different intellect, different maturity levels. So what tools and methods do you use, to teach these different levels?
Okay, especially for education programs, because mostly there's a department specifically that focuses on the schools, and then we do the like site guiding, I would say, to the universities from tourists abroad, mostly, and you will find it very, very interesting because mostly now our local people are starting to engage and come to the museum, but then you'll find it's very significant to universities such as from the Germans, from the Texas University in USA. You understand, all those USA, those universities that are abroad are the most people coming from. And then now we're starting to engage with the UCT as well, and then in University of Stellenbosch. So we're working very closely, with different academians. Let me just put it that way. Yes.
I like how they've taken the interest, these Americans taking the interest to know about the history and also wanting to be part of it. So how do you feel about that, having...
Like we said, no, we don't have a specific age that we cater for.
Yeah.
For instance, last week there was a group of students that came from the UCT for a research project, and sometimes we'd get a number of 25 students, maybe from University of Stellenbosch, for instance, also coming for the research. So our programs are not just for,
So can you tell us about the artifacts? I'm sure the museum has got artifacts. So can you tell us about what kind of artifacts you have there and how old are they and what purpose do they serve and history behind it?
Okay. We have, I'm going to take this one because I'm working to collections department as well. So I'm just going to have a problem with that a bit. We have different ones, especially from mostly are donated by people who were living in there.
Donated?
Understand? Yes, mostly, yes, they were donated from them. And then they're very old, more than 20 years and moving forward. But then you have to follow the proper procedures of cleaning and conserve it in order to increase the lifespan of the artifact, such as your broom, your what do you call no one like the ikuku? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yes, I'm trying to find
ikuku.
Grassland, yes, and then you have Baula, you have your primer stoves, like the stove that they were using during apartheid regime. So we're just telling them that since now you see an electric case, but then this is where it all started.
Wow, I'm going to Google that ikuku.
Old televisions that we
old television,
the ones that you have to
that
use
heavy ones.
In order to get the TV to play, you have to connect it most to a battery.
The black and white.
Yes, the black and white one.
So just very briefly, what can we expect on Human Workers Day? Is it Human Rights Workers Day?
Okay.
Human Rights Day.
But let's start from Human Rights. Last year, what we did, we were launching the new exhibition, which we have now, the one I'm calling Siyanyanzela, which briefly I can just summarize it a bit. It's a story around Lwandle again, which it shows a different racial group, actually, because it's whites versus black. So they were actually complaining about they occupied the land which didn't belong to them, it belonged to Sanral. So then because they couldn't afford to pay rent anymore, they just took the land by force. I'm not going to talk about the land expropriation or whatever. I'll talk about my land. It started very long. So those people living in there, so they were kind of clash between Sanral and the people from Strand, those who can afford, and then people of Siyanyanzela. But to cut the matter short, they are still living in there even now. So they didn't move.
And this is haunting us still today. So if for those that do not know about or hearing about this for the first time, very interested, want to know more, how can we get a hold of you? Where can we search you up and find you?
We have a Facebook page. It's we love Lwandle Migrant Labour Museum.
Yes.
That's our Facebook page. And the Twitter, it's info_Lwandle.
And then you can go to our website as well, www.lwandlemuseum.com.
Okay.
Yes.
So if there was a group of kids that wanted to come through to the museum, can they come at any time or must they be sent through by the school?
We open from Monday till Friday.
Okay.
From 4 up until 4:30. You don't need a referral to visit the museum.
Okay. And there we go. So guys, we've come to the end of the show. I really loved how the show has turned off the interest. I'm sure the people that's been watching at home, they've had just as much as we did, much fun as we did. So guys, I thank you so much for coming through. We have come to the end of the show, unfortunately, but you can always go through, search the website, look for them on the Instagram and Facebook page. But for now, we are signing out. Until next time, bye-bye.